Western Rockies.
White your cat. How can we prepare?
Top a few of their machine radios, throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We're fighting for our lives. Must survive.
5,000 gallons of air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is June the 20th, 2024, and this is episode 458 of Workshop Radio. I hope everyone is doing great out there. Happy summer solstice. This is the longest day of the year where we can get as much shit done as we possibly can. Anyhow, let's open up this evening because we are back for this week in prepping. Let's open up with a rule to live by. So I threw it into my old Spinny Majigget randomizer machine, and I ended up getting rule number 12. Sounds like a really boring number, but it is one of my all-time favorites. Rule number 12. Set goals, not resolutions. And if you've heard me speak for more than an hour at any time over the last 4 years, if you've heard me present at events in person, you will know that this has been one of my top go-to rules to live by. And what do I mean by set goals, not resolutions? Here it is. Resolutions are binary. They're 1 or 0. They're success or failure. I've used the same story 1,000 times. There's a guy I work with who would quit smoking all the time. And as soon as he would fall off the wagon, he would start again. Pretty similar to my weight loss journey over the years. Every time I would set resolutions, and it is exactly what it is. The problem was, of course, is that everybody would treat them like binary. As soon as they screwed up one time, boom, they would give up until next New Year's. So I decided 2014, 2015 to start setting goals instead. And what does that mean? Really, that is achievements for the end of the year. And what I like about goals is if you set a lofty goal and you don't make that lofty goal, no big deal. You've still made a metric shit ton of progress. So look at the things you want to do in your life and say, okay, where do I want to be in 12 months from now? What's it going to take for me to get there? And the cool thing about a goal is if you screw up once in a while, it's not the end of the world because you're still putting one foot in front of the other. That was the biggest problem I saw with New Year's resolutions every single year was that people would set a goal, they'd call it a resolution, and as soon as they come up with the off switch, that was it. You know, that is exactly how almost all of the health areas, the gyms, anywhere, they thrive on getting those memberships in January because they know people will be too insecure to cancel them because, hey, they gave up, right? So set goals, not resolutions. Rule number 12 to live by. So there you are. All right, folks, I hope you're doing well out there. Let's see who we have in the audience, the crazy delinquents this evening. And if you're watching from Facebook, Facebook gave us all permission to stream over there again. I don't know exactly what happened, but they took away some third-party streaming privileges. And the powers that be decided to give those breadcrumbs back to us. So if you're watching over there, it's great to have you again. Who have I seen so far? Big Bad Ryan Pippin from the nice cold state of Florida. Good to have you. Digger, always love seeing you in here. Chris Watkins, good to see you. Hadn't seen you in a little bit. MT Knives, there is a brother of mine. I saw he is putting a point on things lately. He's been busy sharpening a whole bunch of knives. Actually, just put on my new SOE shirt and took off my neck knife just before, so I can't shamelessly plug Patrick's Genesis neck knives, but man, do I love them. Who else we got in here? Chris Dixon, the Dixon way. Good to see you. He said, here we go. If you're new to goals, set short ones, 1 month, 2 month, quarters. Bingo. Yes, you are absolutely right. That's kind of the crux of the Dave Ramsey snowball method is you get some easy wins under your belt first. And there's nothing quite like getting a couple of easy wins to give yourself that metaphorical or literal kick to the nuts to get you going. Brian Young, look at that. He did sit down behind the PC this evening. It's great to have you guys. I know the weather is so nice and it's a hard time of the year to show up, but we got a great crowd in here already. Gunfighter Concealment says, hit that thumbs up button, do the free thing. Yes, please do, if you don't mind. You guys all know that's what makes the world spin around. But there we are. All right. Now, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I had a big announcement for a guest that was coming on the show. And I decided I was going to announce it tonight. And I thought about leaving it till the very end of the show, but I was like, no, that's a dick move. So let's get it out of the way first off. So you guys have heard me, well, I hope you have anyway, heard me talk about one of my favorite nonfiction books called Bunker, written by Bradley Garrett. He is a dude who has, anyway, it is a sociological look at the history of prepping. And it is the most well-researched book I've ever read on prepping. And I truly felt like it was one of the most balanced books. It was not pro-prepping and it was not anti-prepping. It was just as far as a person could write a dispassionate, fly on the wall look at prepping. I felt like he did a great job with it. He's also been an ex-guest, a former guest on the Joe Rogan Show. He also spent many, 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 many days underground in London, going in the tunnels that were beneath the tunnels. He even ended up going to jail in London for a little while for some of his exploration. He even has this really cool documentary all about industrial spaces, which would be kind of boring to some people, but right up my alley. It's really neat. Mostly drone footage of like cell phone towers and like exchange stations and things. Anyway, that's a long way to say that he is one of my white whale guests. He's been on my want to get list for quite some time. And not this Monday, but next Monday, I will be doing a pre-recorded episode with him. So I'm going to be sitting down getting him to answer all his questions. I don't know how long the show will go. I hope for quite some time. I would love any and all of your questions. If you haven't read Bunker yet, I have plugged it in the past. I probably haven't plugged it a ton as of late, but please throw the questions my way. I'm stoked beyond stoked. I reached out to him on multiple occasions and I finally must have hit his inbox at the right time because I sent him an email and within 10 minutes, he was a book guest. So that's the way it comes together, folks. Don't give up on, again, goals, right? Things you want. Just keep going after them and you will get them. So anyway, Bradley Garrett's going to be on. I don't know the exact day the show will play for you guys, but I'm doing after the hot mess that was Dickie Barrett from Mighty Mighty Boss Tones and the Defiant, I decided that some of these larger guests, I guess you would call it, are going to be pre-records just simply to eliminate as much of the moving parts as we can. So that's a long way to say that I'm drinking apple pie moonshine this evening, just a little bit. And this may be, and Byron Roberts, if you see this, it may be sacrilege, but I am drinking it in my Frankfurt Bourbon Society glass that was sent to me from Frankfort, Kentucky. Thank you, Byron, for that. I appreciate it. And one more shout out before I forget. If you look over that shoulder right there, what appears to be my right shoulder, which is my left shoulder, you will see a civil defense poster back there. And I need to shout out Jake from Ravenwood Acres. He's been a guest on here before. He sent that in. I finally got a cool frame for it, and it is up in the studio. So there you go. All right. So with that, do you guys know where we go from here?
If anyone dies while you are kept in your fallout room, move the body to another room in the house.
The time has come. Stranger than fiction. All right. So this is really the segment that inspired This Week in Prepping, probably damn near 2 years ago. I started taking a fun, weird look at the lighter side of the news that could be remotely tied into that which is known as preparedness. So let's take a look at the world news as it pertains to prepping this week. And the first one, we had to talk about the heat dome. You've probably heard about it everywhere. And if you have, truth be told, you're probably experiencing it. If you're anywhere other than where I am, you're probably in for a world of heat this week. And so let's take a look. So what is a heat dome? This comes from the Associated Press. And again, I'm going to plug this website here, guys. It's archive.ph. That's archive.papa hotel. And you can plug, what I use it for is a few things, but if you have exceeded your free article reads for the month, throw it in there and you can read it. But more, what I've gotten used to is I like throwing it in here because it kills most of the ads. So when I'm bringing them up live for you guys, and it makes it very readable and printable. It's a great resource. I've been using it a ton. So what's a heat dome? Well, I think you guys probably could tell me better than I could, but I've been hearing about it all the time. I figured let's do a quick talk about it. Here's why so much of the U.S., it's not just boiling, it is now broiling this week. Here we go. All right. What is a heat dome? Well, I don't know, Tim. Are you going to tell me? I think you might. It's helpful to think of a heat dome as what's happening in the atmosphere. A heat wave is how it affects the people on the ground. So it's really the meteorological thrust of a heat wave. It's the stuff in the atmosphere that's happening that is causing the heat wave on the ground. A heat wave is how it affects people on the ground, said Ken Knuckle from North Carolina University. When a high pressure system develops in the upper atmosphere, it causes the air below to sink and compress. That raises the temperature in the lower atmosphere, the part that we partake in. Because hot air expands, it creates a bulging dome. I guess it would be like trying to fill up a balloon with hot air. And so what you end up getting is this right here. And this is a scary looking graph. And of course, for most people, Jeremy included, one step closer, these kind of temperatures aren't that far off. But the article goes on to say, and of course, this is the whole thing, you know, when you get 100 degrees Fahrenheit in England, people die. When you get 100 degrees Fahrenheit in Texas, people call it a Tuesday. And the reason for that is our physiological acclimation. Our body becomes acclimated and used to a certain amount of stress. I would liken it to a person who works really, really hard. I was one of the people who worked really, really hard in the oil patch and he was still fat because your body becomes acclimated to a certain level of activity and you have to exceed that to stress your body. Or in this instance, you have to exceed what you're used to in temperatures to get yourself in trouble, I guess. So here it is. It looks to me, for those out there who need to be, that want to be prepared, it looks like the 22nd, which would be Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is going to be the worst day. It's the day where the color rolls over from red to purple. That looks really bad, doesn't it? And up in the Columbus, Ohio area. So, and then June 23rd, that would be the following Monday. It looks like Nashville still got quite a bit of hot heat, red. Yeah, anyway, it is what it is. So there it is. And is it scary? I mean, yeah, it's not great. The people, again, you know, we talk about when I did some of the, you know, history of bad weather events and things like that. When the Chicago heat wave, when we talked about that, the people who are most apt to be disturbed from it are the really young, really old, and the ones who are infirmed, you know, with comorbidities, right? So these are the people that have to take it especially cautious. But honestly, there's a lot of really easy, simple tips. One step closer says stay hydrated and in the shade. Those are two right there. So here's the map. You're going to see those scary things. It's just something to be cognizant of. Most of you are living through it right at the moment. So live with it. I mean, embrace it. You guys are tougher than I am. When I get my American friends who always say, damn, I don't know how you put up with minus 47. Well, I don't know how you put up with, positive 175. So it's all, again, acclimation, right? What is a heat wave? A heat wave is defined by how intense the heat is, how long it lasts, and where it occurs. Again, heat waves are relative, right? In general, several days of 90 plus degree temperatures in Texas, no big deal. Further north, it's forecasted to be in the mid to high 90s over the Midwest and Northeast this week, with heat indices of 100 degrees Fahrenheit or greater. For my fellow Canucks, that is 38 degrees Celsius, or the temperature of my stove. That does not sound very good. And here's the big kicker right here. The population's just not conditioned to that sort of heat, he said. The National Weather Service said that some areas likely will reach daily records, with the heat wave lasting all week and into the weekend in places. Almost 77 million folks this week in the United States were under extreme heat alerts Tuesday. And again, when you look at these maps, there's a reason for that. We all know where the largest population base is in the United States, and that is the East Coast, because basically that's where the country started and expanded across. You have all these big metropolitan areas right there. And so they, of course, make up a huge portion. Almost a quarter of the population is under an extreme heat warning. So take it easy out there. Have backup power for your air conditioners if you need to. Do the things that you need to do. All right, let's take a look at what the community has to say about this. Oh, Robin says, have you tried Blackberry Crown Royal? I have not. You know what? Real quick, let's plug this. This is Junction 35 Moonshine, Apple Pie Moonshine. I talked to the guys that distill this. It's in Carey's neck of the woods, actually, near Knoxville. And they had quite a story to tell about it. It's not just White Lightning or 151 that's kind of watered down and added some flavor. They make it as close to the real way as they can and still sell it legally. It is the most scrumptious, over-the-counter apple pie moonshine I've found anywhere. So if anybody wants to try it, I think it's only available from their stores in that area. Brought it home with me. One Step Closer says heat dome happens here every year from late June to early September. Oh boy. Pippin, heat dome. Is that when you pass gas and hold the covers over your head? I think there's another name for that, but yeah, that's a Dutch oven. Thank you, One Step Closer. Robin says it was 100 degrees in the shade on my front porch yesterday at 3 p.m. Oh my goodness. Hey, L2 Survive, great to have you. Said we rented a cabin in Elk City, Idaho for the week of Father's Day. It snowed one day, snow in June. And Chris Dixon, the place that has been under drought conditions for ages, got snow on Tuesday. It got to 2 degrees Celsius here, so very, very close to snow temperatures, which is like 35 Fahrenheit for my Freedom Unit minded folk. Oh, I'm glad you didn't hit any black ice on your way to work or anything there, Mr. Dixon. But yeah, so we do get snow in June here. Don't think my town's ever had it in July, but we've had it in August here, late August. So there you go. All right, what do we got next for you, folks? Well, coming right up, this is a story. This comes from the local.dk. That's from Denmark. And the title is Checklist, the emergency supplies Denmark advises you to stock up on. Now, I'm not going to play, maybe I will play a little devil's advocate, but a lot of major government bodies, a lot of countries in general have been pushing their populace to become prepared. Now, it's not a bad thing, not by any means. I think it's great. And you'll see most of what comes out of this article is very practically minded. I'm glad to see it. I hope they don't know something we don't know. And I don't think they do necessarily. I just think you'll read the article and you'll see they're trying to take some of their stress off of their version of FEMA. So anyway, Denmark joins the latest crowd of countries to recommend to their folks to have 3 days of supplies as a bare minimum. We want to have more than that, don't we? But here we are. Every household in Denmark should stock up on certain items, including food and water, in case a crisis were to hit, Danish authorities advise. The DEMA, or the DEMS, whatever they want to call it. Anyway, it's the Denmark version of FEMA, issued advice for the general public to have certain supplies at home so they're prepared in the event of a crisis. Now, this, everybody has something that is their kind of, their soapbox or whatever. And, people are like, well, government needs to take care of health and roads and school. Anyway, they don't need to take care of anything. But if one thing a government did was recommend to people to look after themselves, I might slightly, possibly, maybe be able to get behind that. So in this instance, I'm not going to shoot the messenger. So the message is not that bad at all. And so every household in Denmark should stock up on certain items, including food. Certainly the checklist on DEMA's website is only available in Danish, so a full English translation follows. The general population should stock up on enough supplies to last them 3 days should a crisis hit. Makes sense. These can include natural events like extreme weather or human acts like cyber attacks or sabotage, which once again, I didn't catch the whole story, and maybe I should have shared it on here tonight, but in my good buddy Brian Alexovich, the Lots Project, he has a Telegram group like we do, and he tagged me in yet another cyber attack story. And we had, not that long ago, I think it was around 10 days, a major pharmacy here in the prairies, London Drugs, ended up getting hacked. They shut their entire Western stores down, all of them, from basically Winnipeg over, maybe even some in Northern Ontario, shut them all down. And the last of them came back up 10 days later because of a cyber attack. So that's just one small one that they refused, of course, to pay the bounty for, and rightfully so, because you don't know what's going to happen. And so that was just a little brief taste of what could happen. Now, the Emergency Management Service Director says, no need to rush out and panic to purchase crisis supplies. In other words, we don't need to build forts out of toilet paper, once again. But when you happen to be out, listen to this, guys. This has got to be one of the greatest lines I've heard a politician say in a long time. But when you happen to be out grocery shopping, you can gradually fill out your supplies. If that isn't copy canning right there, if this isn't something that preparedness-minded folk, much smarter than me for much longer than I've been around, have been preaching, wow. It's also what our grandparents did when they stocked up the larder, or they went down in the root cellar and they canned the surplus of the fall. It was just called being a prudent civilian, a prudent citizen, whatever you want to call it. Simple as that. They also noted the advice is meant as guidance. And one of the reasons DEMA has produced it is in response, check this out, in response to increasing requests from the public. So not only are they telling you to stock up, but the public in general is saying, hey, yeah, dummy, in office, you need to tell people to be supplied up. Simple as that. I love it. I love hearing that. Boy, Tim, calm down. You got a long ways to go tonight. We're recommending this because if people can get by for 3 days, authorities can focus on doing what needs to be done and work on normalizing the situation as quickly as possible. Now, read between the lines. They're already probably not super prepared to respond to certain emergencies, and that's cool. But the last thing they end up needing is to have a whole bunch of people running out to the store saying, I don't have my Doritos and or my vape or whatever I don't know anyway, whatever they need. They're beating the doors down and getting in the way of emergency response. So in this way, people can stay the hell home, and or in the words of the famous, not really famous, but in Canada, the famous Nova Scotia Premier during COVID, he said, stay the blazes home. Now, that probably wasn't great advice during then, but during an actual emergency, stay the blazes home is often, bugging in is often the most or the best, most prudent way of doing things. I remember back when we talked about the LA riots, almost everybody who died in the LA riots were because they were doing stupid things in stupid places with stupid people at stupid times. But really what it was they were going out when they should have been staying in. There you go. That's it. And if you want to see the checklist, all of the show notes have every one of the articles I talk about tonight in here, but it's really, really good. The only thing is 3 liters of water. I'm not sure what that is, if anybody can convert that for me, but that's nearly a gallon of water. Anyway, just kidding. So, and additional water for pets. But we're not going to go over this checklist because you and I both know that we've all been there, done that. So, all right. L2 Survive says, I have my air conditioners running on solar. When the sun is out, I can stay cool. Love it. Also, this is great news, guys. The Fish Mox Fish Flex website has fish antibiotics again. So if your betta fish, your goldfish, your piranha are looking a little icky, then you can definitely pick up something to help with their sicky. There you go. Hardway, Alaska says Kahlua and Bailey's and Crown Royal is called duck fart here in Alaska. You can add coffee for a turbo duck fart. And Robin says in equal amounts. And Hardway says, I believe so. It tastes good. And Robin says, I like all those, but never mix them. I don't drink much anymore, but that sounds like a nice treat. Yeah, I don't mind. I like there's a few out there that I kind of enjoy, especially around Christmas time. They work really well in coffee. So there you are. All right. Next article that I'm going to share with you is actually a post from trustpilot.com. If you don't know what Trustpilot is, it's kind of like the Better Business Bureau. And this is where they rate businesses and how they're going. I caught this story over on survivalblog.com, John Wesley Rawls, his website. I get a lot of good news stories over there. And I did not know, and this may be mostly a Canadian thing, but if you guys have seen this company before, goodtogoco.com. That's good, the number 2, GOCO.com. When I was in the market to buy a freeze dryer, boy, right about this time, 6-8 months ago, probably now, this is a company that continuously came up in my feed. They were advertising everywhere. They've been around for many years. They were fairly well looked down or looked up upon in the preparedness field. Well, at some point in the last 7 or 8 months, they went belly up, tits up, if you want. Not good. Let's put it that way. They went from a company that was fulfilling orders on a decent timeline, taking, pre-orders, taking deposits, making sure those deposits were properly applied, to absolutely taking people's money and running. Now, I don't know what happened, but just even in the last couple of days, their Facebook page is now gone. Their Instagram page is gone. Their website was still up the other day, but this was a company who was doing great things and all of a sudden started doing bad things. Now, my guess, if I had to look at it, and I don't know, so this is totally Tim's intuition here, but I'm kind of guessing that they got in hard financial straits behind the scenes, hoping that things would clear up, kept taking deposits, kind of like the contractor that goes belly up where, they keep taking the down payment for the next job to finish financing the job before. And that works great as long as it doesn't rain. And the first time it rains and something shitty happens, well, that balancing act, you go over the Grand Canyon. And that's what it looks like here. So another really decent preparedness company went out of business. So kind of sucks. So here, this is some of these. This was 4th of February. Do not buy from this company. It's just a scam. You'll probably never get your items. I ordered a few items online in October 2023. Never received anything. They charged my credit card. Same story as everyone else. Made a big order 3 months ago. Never received it. No communication answered. No refund issued. On and on and on it goes. You can read through these. It's sad. They had great reviews up until 6 or 8 months ago. We kind of dodged a bullet buying our Harvest Right freeze dryer directly from the company. But either way, great company gone. There you go. All right. Next story, folks. What do we got? If you're probably like, man, this is Canadian centric this week. Well, you know what? Alberta has been on some hard times as of late. And by Alberta, I mean our largest southern city in Calgary, right around 1 million people, big enough to have an NHL team. If you don't know what NHL is, it's that thing where people go on ice and shoot pucks around. But anyway, Calgary is just as big as Edmonton. So those both cities make up roughly half the population of our province. So Calgary alone has about 1/4 of our entire population. And this was released the other day. Now, just before I went live tonight, they've revised it, hoping they're going to end up being on the shorter end of things. This 1 million person city, a good portion of the city, has been on water restrictions for 2 weeks now because the main water line, one of the main feeder lines that's basically big enough to drive a truck through, ruptured. Short story long, long story short, the cement line in there is basically steel impregnated. So there's steel wire inside of multiple layers of concrete. It was built 50 years ago, and it was supposed to have a lifeline, an expected lifetime of 100 years. So we're at 50% of that expected lifespan. They'd never done, from the best of what I could tell, they've never done a full shutdown with eyeballs on the main line for obvious reasons. But they did kind of scans and that sort of thing. Well, they had a catastrophic rupture 2 weeks ago, flooded a certain end of the city. And here we are. They've been 2 weeks. On June 15th, 5 days ago, they announced, are you ready for this? Calgary water restrictions to last up to 5 more weeks. They have been 2 weeks on water restrictions, and they have a possibility of 5 more weeks to go. Holy shit. Now, as of today, they're saying it probably will be closer to July 5th as opposed to July 15th or 20th. But it is bad, guys. If you want to see some interesting posts, Chris Dixon turned me on to the Calgary Gardening Facebook page. There's been some good in there. There's been some funny in there. There's been some people who have really done well with the rainwater collection, and there's other people who are just like, I can't believe this. Earlier today, I saw a post of somebody. There was there's like this community circular that has to be printed like 8 weeks in advance. And this week it was released, and on the cover was a lady having a water gun fight with somebody. And somebody said, boy, that's in poor taste. Oh yeah. Anyway, how stupid are people? But here we go. So anyway, they've been 2 weeks in, water restrictions. People are doing the best they can. I mean, you hear stories of people putting the plug in while they have a shower, then saving that water to water the garden. Things that, might be a little bit foolish, but wouldn't be a bad thing to be doing on a regular basis. Anyway, 5 more weeks is the possibility. It sucks. Water restrictions in Calgary are set to remain for up to 5 more weeks. Now, predictions are online. Some people are saying Canada Day, which is July 1st, 3 days before Independence Day, of course. Some people are saying, but here's the deal. You guys might have heard of a very small festival that happens every year called the Calgary Stampede, the largest rodeo in the world. It brings, I didn't even look, but I'm going to guess at least 1 million people. It is the cash cow of, I think we only missed one for COVID. It shows you how serious they were about getting that done. That happens on July 5th. So I will bet you dollars to donuts that the mayor and council will move heaven and earth to have water back and running before the Calgary Stampede happens. So everybody says they're saying now they're shooting to have it ready for the 5th, which is Calgary Stampede. They also said the Stampede somehow doesn't put a further strain on the water. I don't know. That sounds like government speak or, double speak. But anyway, they said this decision for 5 extra weeks was not taken lightly. We cannot take the chance of further breaks on the long-term sustainability of this pipe. So here's the story. They went down, they start repairing this massive pipe. What happens? They're like, well, while we're down here, why don't we just peek around and see what happens? Well, guess what? They discovered multiple other snaps of the reinforced wire that's within the concrete. And so they're now repairing those. Now, this is very similar to like an EMP, for instance. We always hear the story, if an EMP goes off, where are you going to find all these very specialized parts that are only made in certain parts of the world? Well, that's exactly what Calgary has been doing. They have been exhausting supplies from across North America. They've been picking up backup parts from places as far away as San Diego. Everybody who can and will has been sending parts. This is just for one small thing. So people are exhausting their backup supply to help Calgary. It's going to be a mess before it's done. And here's the thing. We talk about the fragile infrastructure we're dealing with now, and I get it. Like, infrastructure is fragile. But beyond that, I don't really what more do you expect a government to do in this instance? It's not like they're going to routinely shut off the water supply to the city to go down and walk around there. They, in my opinion, at least from what I've discovered so far, they did their due diligence. It just sucks. But no matter what you want to say, you can see that big line right there. And that's part of where that basically ruptured on the inside. The biggest problem I see is that, and we know this, and I've beat this dead horse to death. That sounds funny. But we are going to see more and more infrastructure failure as time goes on. Here they go. We've begun preparations to bring in as many redundant parts and put personnel and equipment on standby to make sure we're in a position to address any issues quickly and keep the water supply we currently have. In other words, they've been spending money left, right, and center, and rightfully so, but it still sucks, right? City's Capital Priorities and Investments Director said further inspection of the feeder main discovered damaged steel wires on the inner layer in multiple other places. We've discovered 5 hotspots that where significant wire breakage has occurred and require critical and urgent repair. That sucks. But at the very bottom, the stampede takes place from July 5th to the 14th. In other words, they got their feet to the fire and they have a hard date deadline that they want to get it done for. And I will bet you they'll figure out a way to get it done. I just hope they don't rush and end up blowing it. But there you go. All right. So that is the look. That is Stranger Than Fiction. Our look at the stranger than fiction world that is the news. All right. What do we got here? Let's go back over to the delinquents in the chat. Robin says, I have a couple of large pickle barrels for rainwater collection. I use it for poultry and garden, but could filter. I also have river access, just need enough filters. So my son-in-law and I are heading to Edmonton tomorrow because there's something big happening at Edmonton tomorrow. And I have a line on 2 IBC totes, triple washed food grade that I'm going to pick up. And I'm going to implement some rain catchment on the south and north side of the house. We have some water storage now, but this made me realize that I need to up my water storage capabilities a bit. Brian Young says, one of my clients had horrible luck last summer, blew the bottom out of a filter, 2.5 million gallons a day capacity offline. And 2 days later, motor blew up. 10 million gallons a day pump off. Whew, that's a lot of water to lose. That is crazy. And Brian says, another client's loss is 45%. For every gallon they pump, they lose half of it. That cannot be good. Man, oh man. Anyway, there you go. Yep. And there it is. Chris Dixon says, the infrastructure will be a disaster in the coming decade. Things are getting aged. Yes, just like Generation X, everything is getting older and more crumblier. Things creak and crack, and we've been expanding and building at an astronomical rate without taking a moment to go back and fix up the stuff that's already there. Like an aging city that needs gentrification, our infrastructure has become unreal. It blows me out of the water, guys. So there we are. Let's see where we end up. I hate the fact that that's where we are, but infrastructure is going to fail. Let's hope it's not horrible. I mean, we've had some really odd instances, you know, the poor trucker who lost his life, who ended up causing the failure of the overpass on the interstate. That was bad. The Baltimore Bridge was bad. Would those things have happened if the infrastructure wasn't as old? I'm not sure. But either way, I know it being old couldn't have helped a whole hell of a lot. So, all right. So I wanted to show you guys this. I just got it in the mail from Mr. John Willis from Special Operations Equipment in Camden, Tennessee. Brand new shirt. Oil gone in 10 years, 1960. Another ice age, 1970. Acid rain in the 80s. And ice caps gone in 10 years from 2000. And then on the back, it says more promises, more tax dollars, and nothing changes. Love John's shirts. If you're looking to pick them up, original SOE equipment, his stuff is awesome. So absolutely love it. There you go. Brian Young says business opportunity. Yes, for going and fixing aging infrastructure, because when things get bad, the government's willing to throw infinite amount of printed money at them. And so even if you can do it ahead of time, it would be great. There we are. All right. So a brand new segment last week. We came up with a cool name for it. I really liked it. And we are going to call it the Prepper Files. So I don't have a cool, snazzy intro for it yet, but at some point we will get it. This is where we look back in the day that is history, that is preparedness. And today, this is on June 20th, 1963. The United States and the Soviet Union signed the Memorandum of Understanding between the U.S. and Russia to establish a direct communications link. Other words, the bat phone? No, not really. You know, that the one that they always pictured as the red phone where, the Kremlin could dial the White House and back and forth and play chess or whatever they had to do. Well, that hotline would comprise of 2 terminal points, Washington and Moscow, with a full-time telegraph circuit, teletype equipment routed between 2 points via London, Copenhagen, Stockholm, and Helsinki. That's a really big thing in 1963, followed right up behind the Cuban Missile Crisis. This was one of those things where they thought, you know what, we need to be able to talk because communication is key during bad scenarios or situations. And they need to be able to say, hey, is this a fly on my screen or is it a nuke coming at me? Now, hopefully they'll tell the truth, but I thought that was kind of neat. And American teleprinter machines were installed in Kremlin and vice versa in Moscow. Both nations also exchanged encoding devices in order to decipher the messages. It's a misleading belief that the hotline was actually a red telephone that sat in the Oval Office. You know, I probably got that idea from the old Batman. Loved that show. But the first generation of the hotline had no voice at all. It was just a teletype system. The countries decided against the use of a telephone as the leaders would have to rely on translation that quick. So there you go. Hey, right on. Robin Holstein just threw up another great tidbit of fact. June 20th, 1863, West Virginia became a U.S. state. LOL. Happy birthday to us. Happy birthday, West Virginia. Happy birthday indeed. There you go. So this week in prepping, the nuclear annihilation red phone was installed for the first time in Washington and USSR. So there you go. And yet another segment we have another. You guys come up with great names for these segments last week. So I'm going, as I mentioned, or as I told you, in This Week in Prepping, we're going to slide segments in and out as the news and the content dictate it. So for me, having a bunch of different choices, it makes it kind of fun to be able to share with you. So this week, this is kind of the stranger side of things. We're going to call this new segment is Paranormal Prepping. And if you wonder what that is, well, you know, we did it last week where we talked about UFOs and nuclear installations. Well, this week it's a little bit more fun. This story comes from globalnews.ca, but it's been all over the news feed everywhere this week. And if you guys remember, just before COVID, there were these monoliths that mysteriously appeared all kind of across the globe in a few different instances anyway. Some were in Nevada, some were, I believe, overseas, doesn't matter. But you can be excused if you don't know what the monolith is. The Washington Monument, I believe, is a monolith. It's basically just a tall pillar. These ones are made out of highly reflective glass. So here you go. If anybody wants to venture a guess as to why these are being made, it kind of reminds me of in the 80s when they were doing crop circles. It was, you know, in the words of Joaquin Phoenix in Signs, it's a bunch of guys without girlfriends that have too much time on their hands. I don't know if that's the case, but here we go. Another mysterious monolith was discovered on a Las Vegas hiking trail. 4 years after strange monoliths attracted international attention and triggered conspiracy theories, yet another reflective pillar was discovered on a hiking trail in Las Vegas. Now, if you want to see it, it looks kind of black from there, but there's a picture further down. It's pretty cool. When they take a picture, it is very reflective and it almost disappears into the background. The Las Vegas PD announced the discovery on social Monday. The authority said the mysterious monolith was discovered by members of search and rescue organization over the weekend near Grass Peak in Las Vegas Valley. Not a really nice place to just be hanging out. I'd like to know who's hauling these, you know, more than human size in height, mirrored monoliths. I don't really know where they come from or anything, but they said we see a lot of weird things when people go hiking, like not being prepared for the weather, not bringing enough water. But check this out. We spotted a mysterious monolith near Gas Peak. Now, maybe it's just, you know, I really don't. Anyway, so wherever you stand on this, the police said that while the internet gets to work on this mystery, they'd like to remind people about the best practices for hiking. And I thought this was cool because I hadn't actually heard this before. These measures, known as the TRAIL acronym, include telling someone blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here they are. Tell someone where you intend to hike or climb and when you expect to return. Research the weather forecast for the area before you go. Aid in additional food and water, aka bring plenty of water, food, and first aid. Inclement weather gear and minimal overnight stay. And finally, L is for light. Bring a light source, completely charged phone, and consider a personal locator beacon. I like that. Yeah, I like that quite a bit, actually. So, I mean, hey, maybe the Las Vegas PD are putting these out there just so they can use them as excuses to encourage hikers to be more prepared. I doubt it. I want to lean on aliens because we're really close to Area 51, right, guys? But yeah, so we got a few suggestions in the comments here. L2 Survive was on the same wavelength as me, aliens. One Step Closer says, I blame Sasquatch or Sam Squatch, if you watch the Trailer Park Boys. Robin says, it's like stainless, highly polished. I thought the creators of those were outed several years ago. Interesting. Pippin says, cough, cough, Georgia Guidestones. And One Step Closer says, we need an AI of Art Bell to do a show on those. Yes, we do. Maybe we'll do a segment on monoliths for one of the Halloween episodes this year, guys. That would be a lot of fun. So there you go. That was our look at paranormal prepping this week. All right. Now, you know, we have submitted segments from committed delinquents. And this week, we have our monthly segment from Thesia, otherwise known as Grandma's Homestead. She has taken the reins with Cookbook of the Collapse, and she has decided to once a month put together a she's going to look at her pantry. She's going to pull out something that you could make easily in a collapse scenario with stored long-term goods on hand. This week, she does rice. She did rice and beans a couple of weeks ago. This one's just fried rice. So without further ado, let me bring on Thesia, and we will get her going here.
Hi, I'm Thesia Ellis, and welcome to Grandma's Homestead. And we're doing another cooking from the pantry dish today, and we're going to make fried rice. Let me start out by saying I was hoping to make the scrambled eggs with powdered eggs, and I bought the powdered eggs and I did an experiment with them. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but they were nasty looking. They didn't cook up like eggs. So I was hoping I could do the fried rice with pantry eggs, you know, powdered freeze-dried eggs. Apparently I need to learn some more about that. So I went back and got my own eggs, and recipes always call for two eggs, but we like eggs in ours, and so I scrambled up 6 of them, and some of them were even duck eggs. So we're going to have a nice eggy fried rice. And another thing is we put meat in ours, so I've got chickens, but everything else except for the meat and the eggs is going to be from the pantry. I've already got my meat about ready. My rice, I cooked it up in advance. It was 3 cups of water and 1.5 cups of rice. Cook it for 20 minutes on very low with the lid on it. And then after it cooled down, I put it in the refrigerator for 2 or 3 hours. And that's what it tells you to do, is you put your rice in the refrigerator. All right, my chicken is done up. Let's get this rice put in it. Turn the heat back on. All right, we got the rice fluffed up a little bit. Getting it heated through. I've got a little garlic powder here. Onion powder. Chives would be good in this. If you've got dried chives, go ahead and put them in there. I did not have dried chives in my pantry, so we didn't do it. I do have some in my refrigerator. Ooh, it's smelling good already. I have my rice on high heat, and I've got my disc underneath it turned over where it's lower to the burner and can get hotter. I put a little bit of soy sauce in the chicken as it was cooking, and now I'm going to add a little more soy sauce to the rice itself. Little sesame oil. Sesame oil is a little strong, so you want to go light with it. And here's some oyster sauce, about 3-4 teaspoons, about a tablespoon, I guess, of soy sauce or oyster sauce. Give a little sweetness. Let's add our vegetables. Remember, this is pantry cooking. Fresh vegetables are always better. Frozen vegetables are always better. But canned vegetables are what's in the pantry. All right, let's add our eggs now. These look a lot better than those other ones I had done. All right, quick and easy. That is pantry fried rice. And like I said, the only thing I've added to it was the chicken. I really wanted, this is what my eggs look like even after I tried to cook them. That was a no-go. So I went back to my farm fresh eggs. But the chicken and the eggs are the only thing that's not in the pantry for this. This turned out darn good, and I'm ready to sit down and eat. So I want you to watch some of these recipes, experiment, do your own thing, learn how to cook from what's in your pantry, because we all remember the CUFUS or whatever you want to call it, the COVID, whatever it was, when we're not supposed to get out into the stores and stuff, and things were not getting to the stores well. Then what you keep in your pantry, you still want to eat good. And so far, we've already done red beans and rice, and now we've done some fried rice. I've got more recipes and I've got more coming in. So because we're gonna make a cookbook out of this mess and make it where you can eat good, even if things are not going well out there. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. God bless. I'll see you next time.
Guys, I think the world of Thesia. If you haven't met her in real life, she is exactly the way she is. But she's one tough cookie. I think the world of her. She blows me out of the water. If you ever, first off, make sure you give her a subscribe on YouTube because she deserves it. First and foremost, she's awesome. The stuff she does, some of the projects that woman has tackled on her own without having, let me back up. Some of the projects that she has tackled without having the knowledge before she started, the way that, I say we should do it. Learn as you go. She's an incredible lady. And you know what I loved about this segment? She left her foibles in there. The things where she's like, hey, guess what? I couldn't figure out how to reconstitute these powdered eggs. Guess what? The time to do it is when you're filming a video for YouTube and teaching other people, not when your family's hunger and sustenance depends on it. So thank you, Thesia. I love it. She's committed to sending one of these a month, and she's absolutely right. We're going to turn it all into a cookbook. Eventually, it'll be a lot of fun. So thanks, Thesia, for sending that along. And if anybody else has ideas for a monthly segment you'd love to send my way, reach out to me. Let me know. And if it fits into the show, I'm down for it. I love bringing delinquent collaboration into that show.
Now you stay in the back room. And you keep your gun handy. Our country is still full of thieving, murdering.
Get ready for I read it on the internet. All right, guys, this is I Read It on the Internet. And if you're new here, and there are a few new names I see every week, and I appreciate that. But if you're new here, this is where we take a quick dive into one of the top prepping posts on Our Preppers. And if you say, what's Our Preppers? Go by and check out the front page of the internet, otherwise known as Reddit. And over there, they have these subreddits or forums where folks post interesting things. And I actually had a killer segment set aside from 2 days ago that I fell in love with about a dude who loved blue jeans. And he had basically lived with those blue jeans for about 4 years during a modern collapse. I went back to bring that article up, and guess what? It had been deleted by the user themselves. Don't know what happened. It's a shame. I couldn't even bring it up. There used to be tools called like Set It and things like that where you could bring up deleted Reddit posts, but since they made third-party apps and that sort of thing pay for play in Reddit, that kind of shit doesn't exist anymore, and it's kind of sad. So anyway, the next best post that I had for you this week is from Thumper. I love the names over there. Heat's here. You guys, have you happened to notice that water and heat tend to be the theme this week? Well, it's the time of year, right? Heat's here. What's your stay cool hack? East coast of U.S. is getting hot out there and looks like a rough summer. What's everyone's stay cool tip? I added some electrolyte packets to my day bag, and I'm wearing a dorky sun hat. Well, I'm also wearing a dorky boonie hat, sun hat, whatever you want to call it. I also drank electrolytes today. I need to tell you that I don't know what it is, but I get dehydrated really easy. I require a fair bit of fluids during the day. And if I'm not taking some electrolytes, halfway, 3/4 the way through the day, I feel like a big bag of poo. So I always notice when I'm feeling draggy or just kind of, cloudy or something. I don't know what the word for it is. If I take one of those electrolyte packets, mix it in with my water and drink that, I feel like $1 million within 15, 20 minutes. So yes, electrolytes are key. Hydration is key. So this comes from Led Zeppelin. They said, I hadn't heard of one of these, and maybe you guys have. I use an ice vest for my daily 3-mile walk. Don't cheap out though and get a good one. If anybody out there has a recommendation for a good ice vest, that's kind of cool. Hadn't heard of it. Down here a little bit further. Eat the Notes says Polar Products. Talking about the ice vest. Polar Products. I highly recommend the vests, which are very well made. We had ours for the better part of a decade, and it's like new. But I don't recommend their proprietary freezable inserts, which froze uncomfortably hard and wore out after only 2 summers. My recommendation stands, however, because it has not been hard to find small, square, flexible, freezing, fabric-covered inserts. Interesting. I like it. Down here a little bit further. Earthling Like You says, prepping for Tuesday. If the AC is out, dish tub of cool water for the feet, large ice packs for the body, fan with a bucket of cold water in front of it. All of the above sound great. When we were in Tennessee, even when it was just touching mid 80s, that was extremely hot for us. Ice packs on our chest did wonders with a small fan blowing across us. Yep. And this was the comment worth the price of admission this evening. This comes from Waste Menu. Says the research on human heat physiology shows that evaporative cooling is the best strategy. Soak your clothes, wet your skin, jump in a cold shower, and then sit in front of a fan. The more water, the colder the water, the larger the fan, the better. You can run a fan on a pretty modest battery or generator. Yes, you can. You can run fans on, I have run box fans off of a DeWalt battery with that little 200 watt slide on inverter. You could run a box fan with the outlet that is in your truck or car. All of the above, but evaporative cooling seems to be the answer, especially when artificial air conditioning is not on the table for you. So that is our look at the front page of Reddit this week. All right. So next things next. If you are looking to get a cool patch like mine, this one says the Anarchist Workshop, and I just got this month's patches in the mail today. They'll be going out early next week. Go to patchofthemonth.co. I'm a huge proponent of value for value exchange, and if you like getting cool patches in the mail every month, $10 a month, $100 a year, sign up, and you can help support the workshop, keep the generators fueled and the lights on. I believe that is the Canadian Preparedness podcast slogan, I think, or maybe a bit of Prepper broadcast, but either way, it does what it does. So thank you, folks. All right. What do we got coming up next for you? We have
nothing like eating under an open sky, even if it is radioactive.
Dropping the dawn, precious metals. This is going to be a short segment this week. There's not a whole lot to talk about in the world of precious metals other than the price is still fairly high. Took a look at a sleeve of silver rounds on Costco last evening, and they were $1,100 Canadian. About a month ago, they were $900. So that's been a big jump. But either way, here's the story for you. This comes from Forbes.com. And if you are looking to get into the precious metals market, just be known that right now, there's a lot of buyers out there. And we talked last week about China backing out of buying precious metals for their national bank. Well, it looks like that's going to be short-lived. That helped drop the prices of gold just a little bit. But here it is. Gold at $3,000 an ounce is in sight as central banks continue to buy. Gold's rise toward $3,000 an ounce was derailed last month after China's central bank says they're putting the kibosh on it. We talked about that. And L2 survived. I'm going to pop in here right quick. Says I can't find a link for silver at Costco in America. I will see if I can find one because I thought I had found one. Costco Canada definitely has links, but I'll see what I can find for you because sleeves of maples in Canada, that there is no place cheaper to buy a sleeve of silver maples than Costco. And it's about $40 cheaper than even my best supplier that I can get them from if I'm buying sleeves. Individual coins, I can still get the cheapest at Beck's Silver and Gold in Edmonton, but sleeves, they're better at Costco. So a new survey of 70 central banks revealed the highest level of expected gold buying since the analysis of their gold exposure started 6 years ago. None of the banks which responded expect central banks to decline, but 81% expect central banks in general to start buying more gold than they've been buying. And what does that do? Well, when we look at it, okay, central bank, people look at precious metals as a safe haven. When times get tough, they head to things that they know, gold and silver mostly. They usually start at gold and then they pop over to silver too, although silver has some more manufacturing uses than gold, but either way. So when countries get nervous about the global economy, they start buying gold. And so where does that lead it? Well, when gold becomes overpriced, people flock to silver or they just stop buying. But especially smaller buyers are like, hey, let's buy silver. Then they buy silver. That drives that price up as well. But either way, countries in general are cautious right now. They're nervous, maybe a little anxious. And so the central banks are like, well, we don't want to lose too much of our monetary holdings, so let's park it in precious metals for now. It was the central bank activity in the gold market which helped drive the price of gold up 49% in just 20 months, from 1,600 and change in October 2022 to an all-time high of 24.27 in May of this year. So in 20 months, the price of gold has gone up 50% because central banks were buying precious metals. Simple as that. So it's something to look at. The biggest buyer in the gold rush was the People's Bank of China, which acquired 225 metric tons of gold last year alone. Whew. Anyway, there you go. That is the quick look at dropping the dime, the precious metals report this week. All right, with that, we are going to go back to, what do we got? Okay, Brian Young says, I see maple leafs on the U.S. Costco site. Yeah, check that out and see. I know, actually, there's a YouTube channel, Silver Dragons, that I like quite a bit, and he goes to a local coin shop quite often, Harry's Coins, and they're really big on Canadian maples. They love them. They like the, I can't remember what the name of them is, but the certain ones that have the engravings in them that are more secure. They're just really big fans of maples, which was surprising. I like maples too. I like silver eagles. I won't discriminate, you know. Government bullion, silver coins, I'll take any you want to send. So there you go. All right. So next we have This Week in the Workshop. L2 Survive, was great to have you. Buying antibiotics for my fish. Good show, Tim. Got to go. Everyone, good to see you. All right. This week was a busy week, but it was a lot of big jobs. So the weekly recap will be a little bit shorter. And I tell you all the time, the reason I do this is for a couple of reasons. Mainly to keep my ass accountable, but secondly, hopefully to inspire you guys to try some projects or some things that maybe you haven't done before. But so last Saturday, we had me and my son-in-law had a great day. We went up to Busy Bees North, the new location, and we turned 3 classrooms into 1. So that's going to allow us to have more kids with the same amount of employees and actually save us a significant amount of money and make us some money. So that's kind of exciting. We got that process down to a science, so much so that we're going up on Saturday and we are going to attempt to remove 4 walls in a day. We did 2 walls in a day last time, and now we know what we're doing. So we're going to go up Saturday and do almost all the work we can and then do the finish work on Sunday. So that's our weekend planned for this week. Sunday was a great Father's Day, guys. It's kind of cool. I'm at the age where my older kids are all adults. 2 of them have significant others. My younger kids are old enough to be smartasses. I love them to death. And it makes days like Father's Day a whole hell of a lot of fun. Everybody come over, and it was the most fun I've had on a Father's Day in a long time. I cooked a grill full of steak, a grill full of burgers, and everybody had a great carnivorous meal. We had a hell of it. Oh, it was so much fun. Anyway, it was great to have the kids there. It was a great and relaxing Sunday with the kids. Hey, and on top of that, I got pulled over by the county mountie. And if you don't know what a county mountie is, that's a town cop. He pulled me over at about 3 minutes after 5 on Friday to let me know that my registration was expired. No excuses. I just honestly thought that it was renewed because we bought a new vehicle, and I was pretty sure I renewed everything for 2 years prior to last fall's trip to Tennessee, but apparently I didn't. So he was nice enough to just give me a warning. And anyway, you know, I was maybe not the most polite with him. I wasn't a dick, but I wasn't going to kowtow at all. And he's like, well, you got to park your vehicle for the weekend. I said, I got to work, so I'll do what I need to do. And so anyway, as soon as I hung up with him, or as soon as he left me alone, I called my buddy who owns the insurance agency. And this is why having connections is really good, and spending money locally is good. It was 5 minutes after 5. The DMV had closed, but the DMV is in his building. He managed to scrounge up a worker who was still there and got my registration done for me that evening right there. So I had a valid registration on my truck for the weekend. And then I ran in Monday morning and did registrations because every vehicle is registered the same time, because they expire all on the last day of Becky's birth month. So at the end of May, everything expired. Got them all renewed, took them all around, got all the registrations put in all the vehicles with in those little envelopes, made sure everybody had up-to-date insurance cards, just basically did a document audit of all the vehicles in the family. So that was fun. I was glad it happened. You know, it was a learning experience. I'm going to set up with, we have AAA, Alberta Automotive Association, I think it's called, or CAA, I can't remember which one. I can actually set up automatic renewals with them online. So going forward, that's what we're going to do. If you didn't see it, I did a cool video that I really enjoyed this week, my EDC keychain video, which was a lot of fun. Check that out. My son-in-law and I have been spending quite a bit of time painting and flooring 12 unit, one of the apartments in the 12 unit. We got the painting half done. He did a wonderful job on the floor in the bathroom. I picked up a rack. So I've been talking, you know, I have, you know, preached the gospel of becoming your own hardware store for a lot of years. And I got a couple of big projects that are happening this summer, moving a new shed behind the CCAN, which is going to be a place for all of my hardware and property management supplies. But in the meantime, last summer, if you saw it, I used a come along to move my CCAN 5 or 6 feet over to give me enough space to build a lumber rack between there and my workshop. Well, I finally bought one because I couldn't find a design I wanted. Picked it up, and me and the girls organized everything on that today. And it's incredible how much of a vertical pyramid shaped rack, how much lumber that will hold. We put like 4 stacks of lumber in there, and there's still room. So that was our job today. We got that done. That made me feel good. Eggs in the freeze dryer, did 2 loads this week. Not as much as I'd wanted, but we got them done. CJ Kilmer will be at SRF this fall. Pretty excited about that. The Dangerous History podcast. I've been wanting to meet CJ in person. Becky, Mrs. Toolman, is going to be put together a kids program at SRF this fall as well. So if you haven't seen that, and if you don't know what Self-Reliance Festival is, well, we'll let you know. But it happens in Camden, Tennessee twice a year. And on a sad note, folks, we lost Maui this week, our cat. And if you don't know who Maui is, you have seen him over the years in pictures on Instagram and videos in the background. He was our 3-legged cat missing a tail. He was not 8 or 9 years old. We found him one day on a girl's birthday, and he had been mangled up in the car, somebody's car, and that's what caused him all those years ago to lose a leg. Actually, he kept his leg for a long time, and eventually we had to have it amputated. So so I came home. It was a good day a couple days ago, and my awesome neighbor, he's just a cool dude. He loved Maui. Maui would go and visit. He came over and he said, "Hey, I wanted to make sure you were home, Tim." He said, "I found Maui a few hours ago. He was looked like he peacefully passed away next to my stairs where he sleeps sometimes." And so I went over, and sure enough, I mean, there was no sign of trauma, no sign of sickness. We were not paranoid, but people are people. So we paid for, I guess they call it a necropsy for an animal. It was like $90 to have him, just to give us peace of mind, to make sure he didn't have something that the other animals could catch, or that some nefarious actor poisoned him or something. But he ended up having a heart attack. So Maui's gone. We miss him. Tonight's show is dedicated to Mau Mau. But yeah, he's gone. We will miss you, buddy. What a cantankerous old cat he was. So I just spent 5 minutes talking about my old cat. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing that. So, all right. Next, we go to what is...
It's the apocalypse. End of days. The judgment day. The end of the world, my friend.
Let's dig into the community mailbag. All right, this is the community mailbag, where we dip into our mailbag and see what kind of communication we get from the community. So this week I have started running polls and community posts on the YouTube channel, which is great for engagement. It's great for content generation, but man, they're just a hell of a lot of fun. I just have to each week remember to sit down and do 5 of them so that they come out every day at the same time, because people love them. So I did a couple of polls, and I wanted to share the results with you first. Number 1 was, do you have the skill to apply a tourniquet? 57 people voted, 49% said yes, 33 no, and 18% said time to refresh. So in other words, about 50% of people definitely need to refresh or learn how to apply a tourniquet. I'm in the camp of I need to refresh. So there you go. The next one was 85 people voted on my poll. What do you carry every day? And of course, I did have one person who's like, why would you give away that tactical information? Well, the way I look at it is, number 1, you have a handle on YouTube. Number 2, Do you really think that somebody's going to go on that community post and be like, ha, he only carries a flashlight and a first aid kit, so I'm going to jump him when he goes to work tomorrow? Now, if you are that concerned about operational security, all the power to you. But honestly, this was just a feel and a feel for, hey, what do people carry? And I love kicking this information around. I love seeing what other folks do. So 56% of us, or, people who responded, carry a knife. 19% carry a pea shooter. Excuse me. 14% a flashlight, 2% a first aid. Not bad. I would say, I would personally like to become better at having access to first aid gear. The other day, I cut myself when I was working at the 12 unit. I went to grab my little boo-boo kit that Homestead Medical, Chuck Peoples, gave me. I was pretty sure it was in my tool bag, and it was not. So I had to go down to the car and get my boo-boo kit out of there. So anyway, that's an area of improvement for myself. I like to talk about those things because, well, it's just one of those things that need to be talked about. All right, next, we got a few comments from the interwebs, the comments of YouTube. And this one was on that EDC question. This comes from Lionel Garcia. And they said, what do I carry? The travel wrench on my belt. I'd never heard of it. Google it if you're not sure what it looks like. But not immediately lethal if involved in a fight. But they also carry a knife, a small flashlight, pepper spray, and a first aid kit in my shoulder bag. A CC handgun on my hip or pocket only when in a very seedy area. Very rare. In 45 years since able to conceal carry, never felt the need to carry every day. Just me. I appreciate the clarity on that. I love hearing that, whatever it is. Yeah. So, and in the comments here, Ryan says, I carry a folding razor knife more than anything. I really like those folding. Are they the ones with the folding, removable kind of scalpel razor blades? Because, man, I got to get me one of those. I love it. Weary Wolf Adventures says, as a UK citizen, I carry a multi-tool with a blade due to laws and restrictions and a rucksack with first aid, flashlight, cash, water, phone, and keys. Yep, I feel you. I actually responded with, I feel you. I'm Canadian. So you guys understand that, allowed versus abled and risk versus reward. And what is your risk tolerance? All of those things. Yeah, we talk about it. So anyway, Weary Wolf Adventures came back with the compliment of the week for me, and it really made my day. Said, hey, Toolman Tim, just wanted to say this week in prepping is the highlight of my podcast week. Well, that comment was the highlight of my content creation week. So thank you. That means the world. Those silly little comments that some people, it takes them 2 minutes, 2 seconds to write out. You never know when that's going to hit you in the field. So thank you very much. This was over on Fountain. And this came from Dave. He said, hey, if you want a good podcast all about precious metals, check out Marion Talks Money on the Bloomberg Network. Episode was June 13th, 2024. Skip the first several minutes, but the counterpart about GB taxes and politics is what you can skip. So if you guys are looking for a podcast you haven't heard of before, check out Marion Talks Money on the Bloomberg Network, June 13th. Always looking for something. Haven't given that a listen yet, but I will. All right. Next, this was last week. I did a poll on Gen Z and interacting with Gen Z. And I said, hey, I don't want it to be a shit on Gen Z fest, but it was fun. I got a couple of good comments from folks here. 3 of them, actually. This one come from Tool Specs. I got a few that got offended and left to have lunch in their cars. I tell them straight up that I don't care about their feelings. It takes a couple of months and a few wrenches slip that hurt their knuckles. Then they start talking like me and doing the same jokes. Yep. I love it. Gunfighter Concealment said, well, I work and have interacted with a lot of people in Gen Z. Unfortunately, the entitled ones are more than the ones I've met not entitled. I want to put other words in there and other than entitled, but this is not a shit on Gen Z. So I'm not. But I will say the ones that I met that are smart seem to be a higher caliber of smartness and seem smarter than Gen X. I don't disagree. The smart ones are understanding that good times make weak men, and they're growing up in not so good times. Some will even say hard times. So yeah, I like that. I like that share quite a bit. Next, Bright Space Babe said, this Gen Xer is fighting for freedom, and I'm not afraid to say what I mean, and I don't give a fig what others think. I find Gen Z self-censor themselves, cancel others who they disagree with, and don't understand the Constitution and why we have to fight for this country. Just my observation. I don't want to put people in a generational stereotype. I don't disagree with you. I actually really appreciate that insight. And I try not to censor what I say, but you are correct when you say that generation self-censors quite a bit. So there you go. All right. So now, not a new segment, but a segment that probably needs to be renamed. Let's put it that way. And the reason is that I originally called this It Must Be Nice, or Finding Freedom. And I haven't settled on a name that I like yet. And really what it's going to be is an excuse for me to share some funny or cool memes with you. So I'm going to bring these memes up kind of full scale here for you. So if somebody can come up with, I don't know, anyway, a name for this segment, I would love it. And it's not just going to be memes. It's going to be pictures, images, something I share on the internet. I'll do my best to elaborate vocally for those at home, playing the home game, listening on cassette, record, 8-track, over the airwaves of AM, whatever you happen to be doing. But anyway, here we go. So this was shared on, I think this was on the Casual Preppers Facebook page. And it's a picture of a dude at a grocery store, a lady buying a bunch of bulk items. And he says, "Hey lady, you buying that stuff for the zombie apocalypse?" And she says, mumbling to herself, "Oh Lord, save me from these idiots." And then down in the bottom, it's kind of written like an 80s, newspaper circular cartoon. But there were some tips on here about when the shit is just about to hit the fan, what are your best options for stocking up quickly? And I liked it. So it said, hey, best option, buy ahead of time. If you buy when everyone's panicking, you'll be looked at as a hoarder, just like folks who were buying a ton of toilet paper, right? You'll be looked at as a hoarder. If you buy early enough, it shouldn't hurt anyone's feelings. No, that's called being a prepper. It's called being prudent, right? So that's the best option. Good option. And I like this. Buy from a variety of stores across several days. If things are already tense, buy a little extra from many stores. If you hate the dirty looks, it's worth it. I did something similar to that when COVID was coming down the pipe. I was in Home Depot when I heard another announcement on the news, and I looked at Becky and I said, yep, it's time. We need to kind of enact some of the plans we've made. So I bought I had just bought a bunch of N95 masks and some hand sanitizer and whatever. So we went to Walmart, we went to Home Depot while we were there before anybody else was going really crazy on that stuff. Nobody was really thinking about it yet. We had really, in these instances, you might have a few hours, you might have a day or something. And so we went and we bought a couple of boxes of N95 masks. We went to Walmart and we bought what we thought was a normal amount of over-the-counter medications. We didn't go crazy to attract attention to ourselves, but we bought that. Then we immediately drove home an hour and a half away, and I went to my local hardware store and I bought 2 more boxes of masks at that time. And then I went to my local drugstore and I bought that same amount of over-the-counter medications, but from there. Now we already had lots at home, but the idea was to get just a little bit more to give them room. And there was nobody beating down the doors. I went in, everybody had everything that we wanted, that we needed. And yep, so there it was. So hopefully that, that gives you a little bit of insight. So next, so that's the good option. Last ditch effort. Buy as much as you can, when you can. If people freak out, put on your big boy pants and do what your family needs. Don't let people shame you, even if you're late to the party. That one makes me quite nervous. You can see a guy with 2 carts piled taller than he is. Guys, don't ever put yourself in that situation. Number one, who cares about fair? It's not fair to other folks, especially those who are unprepared. But more than that, you are putting yourself at hugely unnecessary risks, and you're really looking to get into a fight. So whatever you do, stock up on the essentials ahead of time. We know this. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but damn, is that ever important. All right, next. This is a good one here for you. This is something I saw on Facebook, and it said, I didn't have a breaker bar to get the lug nuts loose on my car, so I used my truck. Now, there are 1,000 ways that this could go wrong, but there are times that I'm reminded that you have to make do with what you have, and this is a great instance of preparedness. Reminds me when I got stuck 2 years ago, way out in the boonies, and I had nobody there, and I had to figure out how I was going to get myself out. So this dude didn't have a breaker bar to take his lug nuts off. All he had was a normal, what looks like half-inch drive socket wrench. Backed his truck up, put a ratchet strap tight to the bumper, got it completely perpendicular, and then slowly backed his truck up. Now, that is definitely an instance to break off a lug nut, but if you couldn't do it and you're pretty sure you tightened them last time, then you know it's going to come off with that. You make do with what you make do with. I really like that. That is preparedness to a T. So there you go. All right. And then the final, this is more of a kind of a local news story I wanted to share with you guys. Becky messaged me middle of the afternoon. She's out of town working, and she says, "Hun, do we have power?" And I said, "Well, we sure do." She goes, I go, "How come?" And a few minutes later, she sends me this screenshot. This is a local screenshot out of Facebook in the Provost and area events and something or other group. And it is a picture of a small power substation that caught fire. The transformers collapsed off it, and you can see the insulation of the power wires melted back. And it says, and this is a great Facebook page to be on. It is the East 13, that's the highway we're on, Rural Crime Watch page. Attempted electrical theft west and south of Provost, my town. No cable was taken, but the transformer was destroyed, resulting in a small grass fire. Currently, there are 86 customers without power, including 4 oil and gas facilities. If you witnessed anything suspicious, blah, blah, blah. So some crackhead somewhere got it in their head that they were going to I'm going to still hear me. We're going to is where it caught fire. Everything. What do we have up? This story. Yep. If you got and then YouTube, I'm going to guess was probably in his 60s, and his channel was Iridium 242. And if you didn't know George Cox, I didn't know him personally, but I followed him for a long time. So I apologize for the breaking up here. If it ends up going too sideways, we'll end the show, and I will upload the good quality from the backup that I have. But either way, Iridium 242 passed away this week. No, sorry, about 2 months ago. I'm going to miss him. Excuse me. He was one of the very first prepper content creators that I started following. He did a daily review of some sort of prepping gear. And anyway, he's gone but not forgotten. But if you want to see some of the best prepping gear review, just straight to the point, the dude lived in Pahrump, Nevada. So I have a thing for people from Pahrump because that's also where Art Bell was from. But he did, you know, some of his last videos. His very last video was an unboxing of a Battle Box 110. But, you know, he did fire extinguishers. He did ruggedized tablets, all just anything and everything. So if you're looking to check out a content creator, excuse me, in George's memory, check his stuff out, because I remember back when he was well below 100,000 subscribers. And yeah, he was definitely Paul Harrell, the gun guy, and Iridium 242 was some of the first YouTubers I ever followed for prepping. So there you go. Great content. His stuff. He did his channel for 13 years. So anyway, so that is the creator spotlight for this week. And obviously I was trying to, I don't know, share with you guys something that somebody out there didn't want me to share, but it certainly wasn't as important as, say, the Area 51 caller on Art Bell. But for some reason, somebody somewhere interrupted our signal, and here we are. So anyway, I love doing This Week in Prepping. I wish I could, I don't know why. I guess this is the time of night where there's a high demand on the internet in my area, but I have hardwired DSL internet. Should be pretty good. Don't know why it isn't. So we're going to figure out a way to bring in the Starlink and test it out a few times. We'll do a few tests on the, you know, more laid back internet, more laid back live streams before we try this. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you coming in. We had a great crowd. I think we topped out at about 25 live viewers. Really good for a Thursday evening, especially on the summer solstice, the day that exemplifies get shit done more than any other day of the year, I would have to say, other than maybe January 1st, right? So if, number one, if you've got any suggestions for articles, send them my way. therealtimcook@gmail.com. If you've got suggestions for names of segments, if you have suggestions for segments, whatever it is, send it my way. I appreciate hearing from you guys like nobody's business. And so Sunday evening, I don't know exactly what is going to, I intentionally didn't have a guest book this week because I knew we were going to be working on the big project up in Lloyd. So I'm pretty sure what you will get this Sunday evening, I'm going to try doing the live stream version of a recorded show. And what that means is I've got the second half of the sit down conversation Brian Alexovich and I had on the back deck of Delinquents Gully earlier this year. So you'll get it'll be about a 45-minute show that you'll get of that. Because yeah, we're going to be going balls to the wall, pulling down literal walls at the daycare. And I'm excited to do it because guys, this beyond anything has been, I don't even know how to put it. It has been game changing for our lives, our financial situation, all of that. So I've taken as big a portion of the leadership as I can in the daycare. And as people know, if you didn't know, I postponed the book club until at least the fall, because like I said, I have needed to take a slightly bigger piece of the leadership pie at Busy Bees, simply because, you know, it's making us a really good living. And so I need to support that. I'm not going anywhere here. I'm not trying to tell you that. Just so you know, there's going to be occasionally where there'll be, new content, but it'll be Memorex, if you know what I mean. So appreciate you folks. Love having you on here. I'm going to go up and see what's been driving my dogs nuts this evening. We will see you one way or the other on Sunday. And if you're new around here and you want to join the Telegram group, do me a favor and grab the link from the description below. Come by and join us. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.